all right with that to have this physical asset that I don't have to manage that gets me 15% and all these other benefits, right? Um, and that's assuming 15% is the max. I don't know if it is. I would bet you could find 20% if you looked hard enough and negotiated. In Southeast Asia, a lot of the time, the best properties are not on any of the websites. It's finding a local to go around on a motorcycle and looking at tiny little signs that say, for rent or for sale, right? A lot of the time, the property's garbage, right? But sometimes you can find a shop front, that you could renovate into something nice in a nice location for like 50 grand in Cambodia, right? If you wanted to dip your toe into commercial stuff. And that might get you 20% because, that neighborhood is up and coming, right? Um, and you had a killer buyer's agent who's going to get you the real price, right? And you had boots on the ground. If I'm going to buy a property in Thailand, I'm going to go with my buddy Ryan, who is a real estate agent and owns the Airbnb business, because he's going to give me the real price as opposed to the foreigner price. It's quite hard. I'm betting these guys or the guy in Colombia that got 15%, he might got a better price than the foreigner price, but I don't still think he got the full local price, especially the local price that you could have negotiated. For 70K, he might have been able to get that for 58K. I'm just assuming. Maybe he did, but in a lot of cases, it's not the case. So to have a killer negotiator and someone to scope out all these off-market deals with tiny little signs, because in America everything's built out, everything's on Zillow, everyone's got an agent, agents are advertising, etc. The market's very efficient. In Southeast Asia, it's extremely inefficient. There's wild differentials in prices based on if they think you're a foreigner, or based on if they're actually savvy enough to put it up on a website. Most people aren't. Based on if they actually have done the research on their neighborhood and know exactly what the values are, or if they perhaps need money and need to get it sold quick. There's a lot that you could do on the deal, so you might be able to put something together where you're getting 20%, right? Maybe even 25%. And let me just use 25% because it's a nice round number as an example. So let's say you got 25% across the board. You had 6 million to play with, that you pulled out of your company in salaries and dividends over the next 10 years once you went exponential, right? And you put it into 6 different silos in 6 different Southeast Asian countries, 1 million per silo. And you're worried about the risk, right? Oh, it's not America, something bad could happen. But at 25%, you only need to own that portfolio for 4 years to get your entire income back in dividends, right? It's 25% a year. The property's accumulating. After 4 years, that's 100% back. Whereas the property in America at 5%, you need 20 years to get that money back in dividends. Okay, and I'm not saying like the money's lost because it's still in the asset, but I'm saying you've doubled up in terms of still owning the asset, which maybe even more than doubled up because the price of the asset went up, perhaps higher than inflation in that period of time. And you added 100% in terms of the interest that you received, right? So let's say you were 4 years into your investment of the 6 million across the 6 different countries at 25%. And in year 5, one of your property silos in Cambodia, let's say, got seized by the government that was already communist, and they said, all right, foreigners can't own anything, right? So you got $1 million seized. You would have already earned $1 million in rental income in that 4-year period, right? You would have made $250,000 a year over the course of 4 years. Yeah, you would have paid a bit of taxes, but mostly you would have got that money back already. So you would have got back $1 million in interest, and then you would have lost so you would have had $1 million in property, and then another $1 million you got back in interest, so $2 million total. But if they seized the $1 million in property, you still would have made $1 million in interest, and you would have pretty much broken even on that investment minus the taxes that you paid. If you'd still had the money in the Laotian bank accounts, okay, maybe there'd be a problem, but ideally you would have seen this stuff coming in advance and tried to pull your money out, and even tried to sell the property, right? So the funds, or the property getting seized, is assuming that you didn't have a 2 3 month runway of seeing all this rumblings of the communist government, rattling their sabers, right? Um, and on the other 5 mil, right, on the other silos, uh, that didn't get seized, you'd be up another 5 mil on that, right? So you'd have gotten a mil out of Cambodia, and then you'd have 5 mil in the other places, and 5 mil on top of that you generated in rental income. So you'd have earned 12 mil total, and a mil had been seized, but total you'd still have 11 mil, right? Or you'd have at least earned that between dividends and what you own. So even with losing that $1 million, you would have a greater total than if you'd had the whole bag in America at 5%. Even with an entire million being seized, an entire silo going down, on 6 mil in America at 5%, you're only up 1.2 mil over 4 years, in addition to the 6 mil that you still have in property that's kept pace with inflation, right? So in a sense, it's a lot riskier to you know own something that generates 5% versus 25%. Um, assuming it's not like ultra high risk like some altcoin or whatever, right? Where there's a good chance it's going to zero. Um, Now, I might be being quite aggressive here with 25%, but it was a nice round number where I could do, 4 year multiple on something. I do believe it might be possible. I would say if the best I've seen is 15%, 20% probably is almost certainly. But I can tell you with certainty from two examples, without even having to look very far, that my guys or their friends are getting 15% in two different countries, right? So that's just a solid plan, potentially for your future wealth protection and your future ability to not even have to live off the earned income that you've got from the businesses, and just be able to push that back into the businesses and push it back into more property, and keep your 20% in gold and Bitcoin, and I don't know, maybe some gambles on altcoin, like dumb shit like that, and some dumb penny stocks or whatever. Like, it won't matter at that point because you've got so much hedged and the multiple bank accounts and stuff. And it's kind of like what Grant's doing, Grant Cardone, where he just dumps everything in his high margin businesses and then pulls that out and puts it into rental properties. Except he's all in on America. He's got a lot of debt and he's got a lot of investors, so that, I mean, he's able to earn a ton of money on it, but it doesn't quite buy the same psychological security that we'd be perhaps looking to buy by using the money to buy properties that you own outright, and can earn you a good passive income because you're income arbitraging, right? And you're selling to these wealthy foreigners, and it gives you that peace of mind because you're like, yeah, I got 6 mil across the board in 6 different countries, earning me this income. I'm never going broke, even if there's major problems in the businesses, even if there's hyperinflation, even if there's a deflationary depression, even if one of my businesses goes under, there's a major economic risk. That plus the bank accounts, plus the other stuff I have in gold and Bitcoin and equities or whatever, I'm not getting touched here, right? And, Southeast Asia or whatever, unless I'm flying private, I can't really spend more than 25K a month, right? Or buying like nothing but Louis Vuitton, which most of you guys don't even care about.